Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Irrelevant the Podcast. I'm your host, Marissa Womack, and this is the I episode, which is probably going to be the only repeat episode that I have this entire season, and it is Influence, Insecurity, and Identity with Hannah Yusuf.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Yusuf. I'm back again. Thank you, Marissa, for having me again.
Yeah, when I was kind of like getting back into this season, I realized that I literally had no guest on, or if I did, like they were at the beginning of the season, and I've just trying to been like having more guests on, and I feel like Hannah was probably the most influential guest that I had on, just because she kind of is very secure and confident in herself, is how she presents herself. And so having her on just to like boost y'all's confidence and to be able to talk about the same topics that we talked about, but just like a year and a half, 2 years, however long it was later, and just being able to kind of like update you guys, because like a lot has changed, I feel like, since we last recorded.
Yeah, before last time we recorded, you hadn't started at USC, and now we go to school together. I'm more than halfway done with college, which is crazy, and I just finished my first year. The people I hang out with is different. What I do is different. How I live my day-to-day life is different. I'm pretty much a new person, I feel like, from a year and a half ago. I went back and listened to the episode. I even sound different, which is crazy. So I feel like I have a lot of new fun things to say today, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like, it is crazy that like I'm literally in my second year of college at USC, and like the last time we recorded this was literally like before I had even decided, I think. Like, I don't even think that I had decided I was going to USC yet.
Well, it was the summer right before school started, right before your freshman year, so I feel like you had.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 We can just jump into it.
For
So
sure.
the first topic is influence. Yeah, so you can kind of start with this one if you want.
So I remember last time I talked about my position in my sorority and how I was inclusion and equity councilwoman for my chapter, which I got to serve as inclusion equity councilwoman again and again, because I would not let it go. So I just finished I had 2.5 terms by the time I finished. But that was kind of where I found my influence. And I also talked about my sweet little, which I now have four. Like a
Yep.
mad woman. I've made
Yeah.
so many baskets. So my influence, I think a lot of it still has come from within my sorority, within my chapter, and getting to be involved there. Because in high school, I think that was something I never thought I would get involved with. So I got to like do more and more on that side. Going to like conferences and doing things with Panhellenic. I got to be involved there. But even like outside of my sorority, um, if I go places in Colombia, like people generally know who I am, and I think influences also come from me not being afraid to talk to people, like just meeting people out and introducing myself, whether I'm in, like a bathroom of a bar, like sitting out, you know, outside of Russell, like doing homework in between classes. I'll always introduce myself to people just because you never know when you're gonna make a new friend. That's I think a lot of my influence.
Yeah. Well, and like it's weird to think that like when we did the first episode of this, like you were in a sorority and like you had a position and everything like that, and now I'm in a sorority and like I have somewhat of positions, like I'm on a bunch of different committees, but just seeing how much of a difference like a sorority actually does make in your life, like people always make comments about, oh, you pay for your friends, but honestly, like I wouldn't trade a single dollar for any of them. Like if I could get back my money and not be in a sorority, I don't think I would. Like, I think that I would rather pay and, like, have met so many amazing people. And, like, you do find your group really quickly with a sorority, but it changes as the years go, kind of like you add more people, or some people decide that they don't want like Greek life, or like they've already found their friends kind of thing. But I think just like being influenced through them has been good for me. And just like everyone in college, like what I didn't realize before is like you really do get to pick your friends and who influences you in the rest of your college career. And I think that like finding a good group of people that influence you in the right way and like truly care about you has probably been the best decision. And finding a school that influences you in the correct way. Like I know so many people right now have kind of, they're trying to figure out where they want to go to school and things like that. And literally I tell every single one of them, I'm like, you'll know when it feels like home. And like financially, you do figure out ways. And there's so many scholarships that literally go untouched because people don't know about them. So I literally have just been like figured out after a year, you typically get in-state tuition anyways. So it's like that 1 year, if you have to take debt, like, and you decide that it's really worth it, like, you know that it's really worth it. And especially, like, when it does feel like home. Like, I knew when I visited you, it felt like home.
And I remember, like, for me, I kind of knew where I wanted to go, like between a couple schools, but I toured South Carolina before my senior year and I knew I wanted to go there. The day I got in, I put down my deposit. And I remember I told you, I was like, just come visit me. And your mom wanted you to go there so bad. I said, just come visit me, I promise. And you weren't fully sold before that. Like you didn't really know. But you came and visited me. And I remember just like showing you how Columbia is at, like you came when Columbia was still like peak, before everything got weird, like going out wise. And I remember taking you out and being like, this is, I showed you around campus, but then I took you out and I remember us just sitting and eating Subway on the corner of the street in front of Jake's.
Yep.
And after that, I knew you were coming to South Carolina. There was no doubt in my mind. And seeing the way
Yeah.
you have like found your own like niche and lane and like blossomed in college makes me so happy because I knew you for, high school and now I get to see you grow into like this awesome, you know, kick-ass college girl who's doing her own thing. And I remember I convinced you to change your major too, I think.
Yeah,
I was
you
like, don't
did.
do that. Yeah. So I would like to say that is also part of my influence. I take people, I show them a good time, and then I convince them to change their major.
Yeah, literally, I wouldn't be sports media. Like, I wouldn't have a sports podcast, like, realistically, if it weren't for you. And, like, the men that I met in Italy when I was there, and my sister being like, I don't think you're going to like all of these science classes. I didn't. Yeah, it's really nice, like, having, well, because I have a double minor. I don't know if people know this, but I have a minor in sports media and then a minor in law, and the law is more to become, like, a sports agent. But recently, after, like, getting everything started with the podcast and with all my graphics starting up, with, like, internships that I've been starting, I realized that I don't really know if I want to do sports agency, but I'm still like following through with my law minor just in case, and especially like with new NIL deals and things like that. Like it would be nice to graduate with it and just having that option, but as of right now, I'm more on the track of broadcasting and sideline reporting, which seriously, like I wouldn't be on that path if it weren't for Hannah being, and it was like you were in your car, you had literally stopped me when I was walking to class and you were like, hey, I just like added a minor, I think you should add it too, or like you changed your concentration and you were like, I think you should add it too.
I remember this so vividly too. I was like leaving class to go back to the
Yeah.
house. And
Yeah.
I saw you, I was like, hey, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I never really saw you otherwise, other than if we were walking somewhere. Like we now, which is weird, we have some of the same friends and things like that, but which is so strange that we came all this way and like have mutual friends. But otherwise, we don't see each other, which is, it's nice that we have such a
Yeah,
big bubble to fall into, but it's like, you want to see your high school friends a little more, but it's nice that you can, you know,
separate.
I get
Yeah,
to see what I
yeah.
want.
That's how, like, I like thought about it a lot because I went in with like 9 people for my graduating class, all going to South Carolina, and like I see Eli when I bring him to functions with me. I see Emma like randomly. I see Jordan like barely out ever. Nathan, I literally have not seen him on campus yet, and I've been there for a year and a half. But
We're just
it
name
is
dropping on the
nice.
pod today.
Yeah, I mean, well, I they're all from our graduating, like from my graduating class, so they know. They like, but it's like I don't see them unless like I truly go out of my way to see them, which is like nice because if I went to like UGA or something, even when I'm there in Athens, like just visiting,
You see
I see everybody and I'm like, I don't want to see everybody. Like I really don't want to see you guys. I'm
it feels like
sorry.
the 13th grade. It feels like a
Yeah.
continuation of North Gwinnett, and it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there were only a handful of girls from my high school, even in Zeta actually. But my little went to high school with me. Well, one of my four. Like Emma is my little, which is so
Mm-hmm.
nice. So
Yeah.
it's like you get to see people if you want, and I think that's a big thing that kids picking their colleges now should know. Like anywhere you go, you'll probably go to school with at least one other person. Don't let that, like how many people are going to your high school, influence your decision. Unless you really just
Yeah.
want to get out of there, or maybe get out of
Yeah.
state.
Okay, well that can lead into identity because I feel like people like look at college as their identity and it kind of does become a little bit of your identity. Like I grew up a Georgia and a Clemson fan and honestly like a Tech fan, like a Georgia Tech fan before my sister went to UGA. And so college like influenced our family to change to like UGA fans, and then I was always a Clemson fan. And when I committed to South Carolina, it was immediately I hate Clemson. And I have no correlation to Clemson, which is so hard sometimes, but like it truly is like a personality trait now of like being like a South Carolina Gamecock. Like people always say like make comments about not only the mascot, but just like being out of state and things like that. And I'm okay with that being my identity.
I have my Spurs up little decoration above my closet, and then 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing something either like my sorority apparel or Carolina apparel, just because that's all the stuff I have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it does become a major part of you, and I didn't realize that. My mom went to college in the States. My mom went to the University of Maryland. My dad went to school in Ethiopia. But my mom wasn't like big on the college culture, so I didn't realize how much big college culture like affects your day-to-day life. Like it's not you go to the University of South Carolina, you are a
Yeah.
Gamecock, and it's not 4
Yeah.
years, it's for life. Same with your sorority. Like people are like, oh, you're paying for your friends for 4 years. No, it's forever. Like I'm alumni chair for my sorority now, and the alumni are always coming around. You see them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are things that become a part of your life, and college is just such a formative time in your life that we're just so like moldable and like malleable, as our brains are very squishy still, and we can really just like change and take shape as humans in these 4 years, 4 sometimes 5.
Yeah.
You're allowed to take a little victory lap.
Yeah. Well, like even with like sorority and stuff like that, like when people do say like you're paying for only like this certain amount of time, like most of my like friends in my friend group that are in my sorority are literally going to be my bridesmaids. Like they are going to be around in my life longer than probably anyone from high school because high school you just kind of are given an identity and you're given a town where you like are from and you're given your relationship with people is kind of based on who your parents are, like who their friends are, and it's kind of everything just goes as you were given, and you don't really get to choose your identity. But I feel like in college, like, you really do get to choose your identity, and that's why it makes like such a difference of just like who you are as a person and what you're becoming and everything like that. And I remember like when we talked in the last episode, you talked about like how your culture is a part of your identity, if you want to go more into how that has been more recently.
So my culture is like one of the biggest parts of my identity, and like being Ethiopian American, how I grew up, and things like that. Even in the last like year and a half, I'm noticing more and more that the way I interact with people and the way I grew up as an Ethiopian American like woman, those two things have so much like intersection. Um, I was raised very in a very specific fashion, um, like from the customs and culture, and even just like day to day, like how we do things. And I noticed that being home, because I think I forget these things going off to college, and just because going off to college, it's not like you're doing your own thing. It's you can forget completely everything you did at home. But being home, I'm acutely aware of my upbringing and how that has shaped me, and I can almost like look back at situations I've been in school, and how that's affected me. Like even the relationships I have with other people, um, platonic, romantic, business relationships, things like that. I can see like, oh, well, when my parents taught me this as a kid, based on our culture, that's why I do this. Like my relationships, like my mostly my romantic relationships is where I feel like this comes into play, is because I rebelled so hard against our culture, and that manifests directly into my relationships.
Yeah.
So do with
Yeah.
do with that information what you wish, if you know me.
Yeah. I feel like for me, like back then, my religion was a big part of my identity. And I feel like now, like what you were saying is that when you go off to college, like you literally forget how you were back home. And so, like, people on the podcast kind of know or have an idea of like how my religion was, or how my relationship with the church as a whole was. But I think that like going to college, like we don't really have a lot of on-campus like groups other than like Young Life, I would say. And so jumping into like religious groups or like going back to church has been has been like incredibly difficult, just because I don't know, like I try and get into it. I try and do like Bible in a year, like all of those things, but like being able to feel at home and like back in church. So like I pretty much only go to church when I'm back home, but then it's like I feel like I lose my identity, so to say, in my religion and in my faith. And it is hard, like especially because my family has like different views on religion, and like my mom is super super Christian, but like my sister not so much. My dad goes occasionally. So for me it's kind of like I have to pick what I want to do. And whenever I'm home I choose to be a Christian, but then when I'm like at college I'm like, oh, like I don't really have a church, like I can't really do it on my own. So looking back, it's been completely different of how I viewed identity and just like who I was as a person, because now like I just feel like I've learned more about myself and about where I want to be in my own identity. But just kind of viewing identity more of self like worth, and just like valuing time with myself. And occasionally when I do really feel lost with my relationship with God, like I'll sit down and I'll take time to kind of build it up and like be where I want to be. But most of the time, like, I feel like your relationship with God ultimately is like your own, and like how you identify and everything like that. But I don't know. It's been very different from then to now and how I view identity. Basically, is what I'm saying.
I feel like for me, like identity wise too, in college, I think in the beginning you gave me this great intro on like confidence and all that. And I think the last, I won't even say, I'll say year, like 2022, going into 2023, I've kind of like been journaling, taking stock of things, and thinking this past year, my identity came a lot from my proximity to other people and who I was to other people. Um, like I'm Blank's friend. I'm her big. I'm her little. I'm in a relationship with him. Like I'm not. I stopped being Hannah, and I started being like who I am and what I give to other people, and I kind of lost like me and all that. So I think
Yeah.
college is a time where you can either like really find yourself or like lose yourself in other people. And I think it's really important now in the last couple of weeks I've been realizing like I lost myself in my relationships. Mostly romantic relationships and like my relationships with men, but also my friendships. Like I had to be everything to everyone at all times
Hmm.
in all of my relationships. And I think college is really important to like not like to be who you are, be you like wholeheartedly, because otherwise like you once you lose yourself it's very hard, like that climb out of that is very very difficult. And like last time I came on your podcast I had just started to like address the topic of mental health like for myself, and it's been like 2 years for me now, so I can finally like come out on the other side and look at it. But that's not one thing. It's like it's a year and you're good. Like you have to
Hmm.
sit there and really think and take stock and like address the like therapy and things like that, and like people don't discuss. So I think that's um, part of like where identity I lost. My identity is like black. Sometimes I get sad, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm Hannah
I,
Yusuf, and I don't want to lose that in other people.
well, that goes along with like insecurity as well, which is like the last topic. Um, and I feel like people in our generation now are like half and half, very open with like the idea of mental health, because I feel like everyone has mental health issues, but I feel like it's how you deal with it and like how you come out of it, like you said, is the difference in all of it. Because like for me, I have extreme OCD and I have anxiety, but I've looked past like I've looked back on the past probably 2 years of where I was go about to go into college to where I am now, and like I genuinely am a completely different person when it comes to my mental health. Like I had a therapist at the beginning because I had such bad anxiety, and then I completely like dropped all my friends going into college, and that took a lot off of like my shoulders and off of my mental health. And then I went to Italy, so I was gone, like avoiding all of that, but it was still like always in the back of my head. Like even in Italy for like the first week and a half, 2 weeks, like I was literally miserable. But genuinely now, like I've grown so much, and like my anxiety is barely there. I still like there'll be certain things where I'm like I'm a little anxious. I need to go in social settings, and that's just how it is. And it's like very rare now. But like my OCD has shrunk so much. Like I used to have certain things where I would have to do over and over and over again. And like living on my own, I've been able to control that so much more. But like it really is different for every person. And like, yes, I've grown with my mental health in the span of a year and a half, 2 years, but that doesn't mean that in like a month I could be plummeted down. Like you really don't know where you're going to be in your mental health, and I feel like that's something that you always should be watching and like listening to, just listening to your mind and everything like that.
Um, I think for me, part of it was like I constantly was like, no, no, I'm fine, whatever. And I took everything that like, instead of dealing with my things, I dealt with other people's. And it's so important to listen to yourself, especially like prioritizing. Hot girls prioritize their mental health. Hot girls take their meds to go to therapy. Um, yeah, hot girls take care of
Don't smoke.
themselves. Hot girls and gals, hot girls and guys and gals and everyone, he, she, they, whatever you identify as, you prioritize your mental health. But a lot of my insecurity came from that, like knowing that I was like, oh, well, gotta go take my silly little pills so my silly little brain works, you know? But it was like, oh, now I feel fine. Like, it's like, you gotta do what you gotta do to like wake up and like wake up, rock out, move on, you know?
Hmm.
We only live on this floating rock for so long.
Yeah,
Why not
yeah.
do it in a comfortable fashion?
I think like even
But
like back then with my insecurity, I was more focused on like the physical. Now I would say I'm very much overly egotistical. Sometimes in like a I feel like that's really the only way that I can like compensate certain things, just because I'm like, if I don't feel good in my own skin, like this is really like the best I'm ever gonna look ever in my life, unless I drastically like I mean, regardless, like you get older and your body's gonna shapeshift and be different. And I feel like back then I was so negative on my body, and it really came off on other people and on myself. And now I've realized like I am like the best I'm gonna look probably, and I've been one with my like body, and feeling hot is like literally the best thing ever when you're about to go out, like putting on a nice outfit and just being like, okay, like I'm her, like I could just hit the road now and I'm good. But like it seriously has taken so much time, and there are days where I wake up and I'm like, dang, like I don't look the best. But then I'm like, I'll make like a dumb little TikTok or just like things like that where I like feel pretty. And even if I like other people wouldn't view it as pretty, like if I'm comfortable in my own skin, like that's really the best that I can be. And I feel like with insecurity wise, like it does take so much time. And like I've finally just gotten to the point where I'm like, all right, like it took a few TikToks of me watching and of me getting so sad about like seeing that, but like I'll look back on myself and I'll be like, dang, I thought I was like cute then, or I thought I was like whatever, and now like I'm a completely different person. I'm healed, like I'm comfortable in my skin, and that is what gives you confidence, and that is what I feel like you can take away from like your insecurities of just like if you have confidence, I feel like you're so much better off than like worrying about your image and things like that.
it takes so much more effort to like worry about those things. It just adds to anxiety that I feel like I don't need. But for me, a lot of my insecurity came from like, I'm 5'10", I'm black, I'm curvy, you know, and all of my friends are like little blonde girls who are like this big around.
Yeah.
and they're stunning, and all of them, like every single girl, I realized every single girl I hang out with looks like that. And a lot of my insecurity came from like going out with them and being like kind of the odd man out in that lineup. And it was just, I just felt like I stuck out and I looked weird always going out with them. And then I realized like no one notices that other than me. I'm the only person looking and being like, oh, I'm not, like I look weird. I like things like that. Like I'll notice the weirdest things about myself, but then I realize like I truly am like the best version of myself, and I've come so far to be the best version of myself. But I would be so, even like if I was like talking to a guy or any sort of relationship, and I would look at the girl he dated before me, and then the girls after me. It's like again, odd man out. And that was always high school, middle school, college. It's always been my insecurity, and it's taken a lot to unlearn that. And I realized like I'm the outlier because I'm fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the outlier because I'm like, you're not gonna get better than me. Sorry.
I mean, hate to say it.
Sorry. I gotta sound every now and then. You just have to like sound really cocky and make yourself,
Yep.
But it's only cocky. Actually, it's only cocky if it's not true.
Yeah, very
Otherwise,
true.
it's just confidence, just
Mm-hmm.
confidence in what the good Lord and my mom gave me. But
Yeah, I feel
I
like,
think that's where a lot of my insecurity came from.
yeah, even like putting on like a face of makeup or like putting on an outfit like doesn't make you who you are. And like, yes, it like boosts you to where you feel comfortable and confident in your skin. But like at the end of the day, like if a dude likes you or girl, whatever like you're into likes you, like they're gonna like you for your personality and like your originality and like who you are as a person and like how your heart is over what you look like or like how you like post or what you post and just like random things like that. And it truly like has taken the right person and the right like I don't know, like value myself to feel grounded. I would look at other girls and I would be like, why is he like not making me his priority, whatever? And I would like blame it on other people and like how I looked and everything like that. I looked at a picture of him the other day and I was like, dang, why was I beating myself up about him? Like he is not even that cute. Like he was not
That
that
part,
cute. I
what she said,
literally,
that
I was
part.
like, there's no way. And I literally sent a picture to my roommates and I said, you guys had me crying over this man. I cried over him like 7 times. 7 times. I don't
Oh,
cry
I
about
know,
dudes.
Marissa.
Yeah.
Marissa, I know.
Oh, that was the last time that I cried about him. Well, that was like the second to last time. The last time was like
That was
in September.
hysterical. I'm sorry, love you, mean it, but that was like the strangest thing for me.
Yeah, I
But that was
literally like I don't know what came over
traumatizing.
me. Yeah, because I don't cry. That's another thing. Like, I just don't
That's
cry
why
in
I was so
general in front of
confused.
people. Yeah.
I
And,
walk
like,
in and you're like
crying
blanket
about a
around your
guy.
face.
Yeah.
Like, I
The
was like, where
amount of
is she?
pictures I
And you're
took
in
that
his bed.
night. Well, that is everything for the I episode of influence, insecurity, and identity. I don't, it's like some order like that. The next episode is the J episode, I believe, with Ellie. So yeah, I will see you guys next week. Thank you for coming on, Hannah.
Bye, thank you for having me.